All right, Frank Tufano ments.
You guys know I've been dealing.
Illuminati agent uses corrupt Freemason judge to ruin my life. By the way, every time he says the Illuminati, what he really means is Jews. He's a massive anti-Semite.
With a lot of negative things, and this is probably the most pressing matter. You know, it's hard not to worry when, you know, people are trying to take away your home, your own personal assets, you know, wrongly, you know, with corruption. You know, after everything I've been through, my failed businesses, you know, being financially crippled, like these people are still coming after me, and it's nothing short of disgusting. So first I'm going to read the order from the judge, which prevents me from explaining this entire backstory. That defendants are enjoined from making public statements referencing that plaintiff copied, plagiarized, stole, or otherwise improperly used defendants.
Oh my god, this is great! So he's talking about the Paul Saladino lawsuit. Frank lied about Paul, claimed he was stealing and copying his content, and then he went above and beyond. He also said that Paul Saladino is a child rapist. He made a website using Paul Saladino's name, which goes against a number of like libel laws, business laws. He essentially used, you know, an intellectual property belonging to Paul to harm his business. Paul Saladino sued him. Frank lost the lawsuit, and I think it was by default judgment. And now they have to settle damages, and I don't think they're going to end up settling out of court. Frank is battling this in court right now. Paul's seeking $2.8 million in damages. So Frank is on the hook for $2.8 million. Paul Saladino requested that it be a jury trial. So the actual amount that Frank Tufano may have to pay, it could be more, it could be less. It depends on what the jury thinks it should be, and it might not be a jury trial. It could just be a judge, but you know, we'll have to see. So the jury could determine that okay, only 1.8 million damages were, you know, done. They could determine $5 million worth of damages, but Paul Saladino's asking for 2.8 million in damages, which is a lot of fucking money. So Frank, if he has to pay that kind of money, he's screwed fucking big time, and he's probably gonna have to give up a bunch of his assets and shit if he has any.
I'm the defendant.
I've only played Prince of Persia
or any other third party's work, engages in dishonest practices in connection with his business, trade, or profession, abuses prescription or illegal drugs, improperly or illegally manipulates social media posts, or engages in any inappropriate sexual content, ordered, adjudged, and decreed that defendants are directed to forthwith remove and delete all of the defamatory videos on defendants' YouTube.
Dodo donated $2. Do you genuinely get happy seeing Frank crying and upset? Yes. Does that make you actually happy off his suffering and anxiety, or do you just think it's funny? Like, I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, his stupid nonsense makes me laugh and it cheers me up. Do you look forward to Frank suffering more? Yes. Who would you rather see suffer, Frank, Jasmine, or John Venus family? Definitely Frank. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
YouTube channel related to plaintiff, as further set forth. So I am not allowed to talk about the plaintiff as far as I know. And if you guys could please share this video, I need as much help as possible. People support my business in the meantime, because basically this corrupt secret society, Illuminati agent, whatever group he's a part of, is using his connection to likely Freemason judge to just...
So Frank clearly committed libel. He accused Paul Saladino of being a child rapist and even made a whole website about it. And then he's saying the Illuminati is out to get me when he clearly broke the law. And Frank didn't even defend himself in court. I don't know what he was doing, but this lawsuit was going on. He never got any legal representation, didn't show up for his court dates. And then he's saying, oh, the Illuminati made it so the judge was corrupt. Like, you didn't get legal representation. You didn't show up for your court dates. Like, that's what happens.
In all seriousness, why should anyone care? He's a horrible person.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Just go after me and ruin my life because this case is completely unjustified. The best way for me to explain this is to read my filing in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals because it sums up everything. So this is the plaintiff versus me, Frank Tufano, and my old business LLC, Frankie's Strange Meat LLC, as defendants. And before I get into anything, guys, this shouldn't be a problem because...
No, Richard, you cannot react to Rape Tufano's public YouTube content. You cannot watch his public crash outs and observe the consequences of his actions unfolding. Rape.
No, I absolutely can. Thanks for the donation, Rape.
The business he's suing went out of business in New York, and we started a new business in Pennsylvania.
So he's lying about this? None of this is true?
And I have no personal assets. I'm broke. I've never been able to pay myself on this business. And as a result of this lawsuit and previous one.
So he's lying. How do you think he afforded that $30,000 plastic surgery he got? He's also living in a house, as you can see. Clearly, he pays himself. If he didn't, then he wouldn't be able to have a house, have a car, like, have anything. He'd be living on the floor of his warehouse. So he's just lying. So Frank's, like, again, also lying. These court documents are public because this lawsuit involves monetary damages. Frank had to actually show his tax documents. His tax documents were subpoenaed. He took in about $5 million in gross revenue last year. Now, he does have expenses and operating costs, so he has several employees. He has to buy equipment for his business. He's had to pay money for his refrigeration systems and stuff. He had to get HVAC repair. He also has to pay money for the product he's selling. So I don't know what his net income is, but he made $5 million in gross revenue last year. So for him to say, I make no money, what do they expect to get out of me? The guy's making $5 million in gross revenue. So he's just full of shit.
Can you read the comments? I want to see if his viewers are supporting him or if they are no. How do you know when Frank uploads? Since you are not subscribed to him, do you check his channel daily, and does he have you blocked, or can you comment in his channel?
I'm definitely blocked on his channel. My comments don't show up. And yeah, I just periodically check to see if he's uploaded anything. Nietzsche after staring into the abyss for too long. Is the plaintiff Paul Saladino? Yes, he made a video against Paul, and also one of his friends made a website with clown pics of Paul, which is the reason for the lawsuit. Frank basically provoked him and got what he wanted. He didn't get a friend to make the website for him. Oh my god. Yes, it is. The case number confirms this. Oh, dude, he showed the case number. That he might be held in contempt of court for this. Illuminati gang stalking you, better call Saul. Man went from dunking on vegans to developing full-blown schizophrenia. Wild, not gonna lie. This is great. He who represents himself in court has a fool for a client. Where the hell is his family? I don't understand why he implied he has no family anymore. I understand there's certain strictness, but he's obviously mentally unwell. I just don't understand how a mother or father could see their own son like this and abandon him, even if there's drama with the business. It's money and debt important than family, of course. It's not my... Frank's a complete cunt. So, like, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it wouldn't surprise me that his family is just done with him because they're like, okay, you're a retard, we can't help you. But, man, even his own audience thinks he's a joke.
If Frankie were accused of being raped by some random girl, was vegan and a cyclist, then Richard here would not be reacting to him. Anything else though, that's fine. Reacting to a guy promoting a meat to your dozens of hate watchers is fine. Why?
Thanks for the donation, 21st Savage.
I actually lost my job through tortious interference. The whole reason I don't have my family anymore is because these evil people included my family in the lawsuit, which caused a lot of psychological distress to my family, and they treated me very horribly, and I haven't spoken with them since. So
So he's lying about this. He had a lawsuit with his ex-business partner, Adam. Apparently his mother was in some way connected to the business, and they had a court-ordered subpoena to look at some of her emails or something. And then after that, his parents wanted him out of the house because they knew he was doing illegal shit, and then they didn't want to be roped into any of the lawsuit that was going on. So they kicked him out. He was also acting like a complete asshole. He wasn't paying any rent. They were even paying for his car. And he was making videos about how his family's stupid for taking the vaccine. He was treating them like shit because he's one of these fucking insane retards who thinks like the vaccine has some sort of microchip inside of it, and there's like that vaccine shedding thing where people who are vaccinated spread disease. And he was like deliberately trying to avoid them, telling them that they can't use like the same like pots and pans or something he was using. This is while he's living in his parents' house, not paying any rent, and he's talking shit about them on his YouTube channel and then treating them like crap. And then on top of that, he ended up getting them roped into the lawsuit. And again, there's probably more shit going on behind the scenes where he treated them like fucking crap and he's just lying about everything.
Normally the judge would dismiss a case if people ruin your life, but not here. So, I really have nothing left, and...
Well, if they do, please don't move to the States, though instead maybe move to some European country, at least one that's decent, instead anything but the States.
I really, really like the West.
These people are still going after me. And this, to briefly sum it up, if you guys don't want to watch this whole thing, the plaintiff's lawyer is going after me and trying to link business income from outside entities to try to prove that I have income, because he couldn't find any bank accounts, he couldn't find any money, because I'm broke, I have no assets, I have $400,000 in credit card debt. These people are morons. And they're still going after me because he spent like $100,000 on his lawyer. This lawyer took him for a...
Yeah, so again, his tax filings were subpoenaed. We know that he brings in $5 million in gross revenue. I don't know what his net income is because the tax documents only showed gross revenue. But regardless, if you wronged somebody and there's damages, then you have to pay them back in reparations.
A ride, and he's taking it out on me. So this has been officially filed now that I fired my second lawyer and am defending myself.
Oh my god. Oh, dude, this is so bad. Oh, he's losing. Oh, dude, this is gonna be so horrible. He fired his lawyer and he's gonna represent himself. It's over. It's so over.
So, summary of argument. This case at hand has broken 3 categories of the judicial process. It has not followed the court code of conduct. Legal malpractice has occurred against Frank Tufano by both his own attorney, Jeffrey Davis Esquire, and the plaintiff's attorney, David Dillon. Honestly, and probably the second attorney that I recently fired because he didn't do anything or help me. And Frank Tufano has also been denied his First and Seventh Amendment rights. Because of this court misconduct, legal malpractice, and rights violation, a default judgment has been granted against Frank Tufano and Frankie's Range Meat LLC. However,
default judgment was granted because Frank never showed up for any court dates and didn't defend himself in court.
However, the initial default was never properly served to either defendant. The entire proceedings and basis of the case are on a fraudulent affidavit filed by David Dillon Esquire, who is again the plaintiff's attorney, the enemy in this case. Argument. A. Proper service for the initial default judgment was not made. Jeffrey Davis Esquire, who was Frank Tufano's attorney at the start of the case, withdrew on February 8th, 2021. Sometime thereafter, plaintiff David Dillon Esquire filed a motion for default with the court and claimed to have served it on both defendants. So he claimed that I received a notice of default, which I never did. Frank Tufano had not been made aware of any court proceedings as his lawyer had withdrawn from the case, and he was not served any documentation. Frank Tufano's domicile of residence at the time was in the Bronx, New York. However, no court documents mention that address as a location of service.
That doesn't matter. None of that matters. Like, this is why this guy shouldn't represent himself. Dude, he is so fucked. Dodo donated $2. Frank is pretty resilient. I think he will go homeless and bankrupt before he ends himself. I don't know what it'll take, if anything. Also, VG, maybe.
I submitted proof of my driver's license. I was on food stamps at the time, which required me to be in the city, which doesn't make sense because I believe this notice of default was served against my parents, which is total court misconduct, totally illegal. David Dillon Esquire's first legal malpractice was knowingly filing the fraudulent affidavit of service for the default judgment, which the court accepted, meaning the district court is not adhering to the proper judicial proceedings and is guilty of misconduct themselves. Immediately upon becoming aware of the default, Frank Tufano rehired Jeffrey Davis to file a motion to vacate the default, which was denied because it did not abide by the court's rule of practice. Now, the way I found out about the default was because that lawyer, Jeffrey Davis, that was screwing me over, notified me of it. But I have filed other cases against this lawyer and everything, but every case I file, the judges don't do anything. They're just colluding against me. I filed dozens and dozens of cases. I filed lawyers. I filed cases against their lawyer, my lawyer, no one stepping in to help, which is what
I suspect Frank didn't pay his lawyer. I think that's what probably happened. He didn't pay him, and some of what happened had to do with that.
I'm making this video. I've exhausted everything I can do. B. Frank Tufano's First and Seventh Amendment rights have been violated. The whole premise of the case against Frank Tufano is based in slander defamation. However, All statements made by Frank Tufano on his social media channels should have been protected by his First Amendment right to freedom of speech, as all statements made...
Freedom of speech does not protect fucking libel, you idiot. You can't say somebody raped a child and then say, oh, free speech. Dodo Donators, do you think Frank will try to take anyone else out before he ends himself? Is he a danger to the public? He doesn't take me as somebody who's particularly violent. Like, if it were Sverige having this kind of mental meltdown, then I'd say yeah. But Frank doesn't really take me as somebody who would do something like that. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo. CDG donated $2. I can already see how it will end. Frank stands before a judge with a fresh pressed, tailored suit and botched nose job to match his eyes and yells at the judge and jury, I am broke, the Illuminati has you all, and ends up in a straitjacket for life. Yeah, I could see that happening. That'd be funny. Thanks for the donation, not CDG.
Made by Frank Tufano to his knowledge were either factually correct or his own personal opinion. Frank Tufano was never granted his right to a jury trial. The Seventh Amendment ensures that in suits at common law, where the value in controversy exceeds $20, the right to a jury trial will be preserved. Judge Nelson Stephen Roman has made...
He never asked for a jury trial. Like, he's such an idiot. And Paul Saladino actually requested for a jury when it comes to determining damages.
All decisions in this case in favor of the plaintiff. Frank Tufano would prefer a trial of his peers to make any and all decisions in this case matter. This whole case is completely corrupt and ridiculous. And the fact that these people are allowing this, like, I can't do anything. What am I supposed to do? All my lawyers have screwed me over. The judges are screwing me over. The court is screwing me over. Every other court and judge is screwing me over. All I can do is go on social media and try to expose these people and ask for help from you guys. C. Malpractice by both lawyers and violation of court code of conduct. Frank Tufano is not clear when the entity, Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC, was amended into the lawsuit, but it was not included in the initial filing, and Frank Tufano's lawyer on record made no attempt at the time to dispute the addition of the entity. This is misconduct on the end of the court and malpractice by Jeffrey Davis Esquire, as the entity was completely irrelevant to the subject. All right. I actually made an error here. It's supposed to be malpractice by their plaintiff, their lawyer, the plaintiff, David Lynn, as the entity was completely irrelevant to the subject matter at hand and should obviously have been denied and omitted. So their lawyer should not have added my business to the lawsuit because it was completely irrelevant. And there's no way the court should have allowed that. The judge should not have allowed him to do that. It's completely irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant because Frank used his business to slander Paul, so he's lying.
Relevant. After several more court motions and Jeffrey Davis Esquire's failure to work in Frank Tufano's interest, Jeffrey Davis withdrew from the case again on April 11th. This was confirmed by a phone call Jeffrey Davis Esquire had made to Frank Tufano, making verbal threats that he would physically injure Frank Tufano. Frank Tufano later found out that Jeffrey Davis Esquire was friends with Frank Tufano's former business partner, who he was in a legal dispute with. Therefore, Frank Tufano believes Jeffrey Davis Esquire was purposefully working against his interest to benefit the plaintiff. Yeah, I mean, that lawyer actually called me up and said he was going to kill me and all this crazy
Thanks for the
stuff. Like, it's so ridiculous what these people can get away with. You guys can go leave Google reviews for Jeffrey Davis Esquire if you want to do that, but they'll probably just have them removed. That's probably the biggest culprit in this whole case. That guy screwed me over in the beginning. Literally, I hired him to help me, and then he worked in favor of his secret society buddies to screw me over. And then this was my whole separate issue with my business partner. The court case, Tufano versus American Arbitration.
Could Frank fraud Max and get diagnosed with schizophrenia? Would that help him get out of the trial?
Probably not. This is a civil case. I don't know if you could use mental health as a defense in a civil case. Thanks for the donation, Majin Buu. One has to bait Frank into becoming a sovereign citizen. Also, will you do fully rock
Association demonstrates Jeffrey Davis Esquire's bias against Frank Tufano, where he unwillingly consented Frank Tufano to an arbitration, which also...
Would you mind giving me a short summation of what Frank did to get himself into trouble? I'm behind.
He basically slandered Paul Saladino. He was claiming that Paul was stealing his video content. And he also claimed that Paul Saladino was having inappropriate sexual relationships with children in Costa Rica. That's basically what happened. And Paul sued him, Frank lost the lawsuit, and now he's still being stupid. Thanks for that.
Ultimately costed him tens of thousands of dollars for his business to fail. Frank Tufano filed this lawsuit against the association and Jeffrey Davis Esquire, where an agreement was made. Regardless of whether Jeffrey Davis Esquire worked in Frank Tufano's interest or not, the initial default judgment documents were never properly served. Therefore, Frank Tufano requests that the default judgment be vacated and the case be restored to offer Frank Tufano a fair judicial process.
That's never going to happen. He lost by default judgment. You can't reverse that and reopen the case. Like, he's such an idiot. Again, he probably fired his lawyer because his lawyer explained this to him and said, you can't do that. And he also realized it would cost money that he probably doesn't really have to have this lawyer. But like, oh my God, this is so bad. He's going to lose just horribly.
Yeah, so this lawyer screwed me over, but because he also screwed me over in the other cases, I lost my business in New York, essentially. So everything they were going after, they caused to lose too. D, further malpractice by David D. Lynn Esquire, the plaintiff's attorney. David D. Lynn Esquire committed further legal malpractice in attempts to create an illusion of Frank Tufano's personal wealth. David D. Lynn Esquire was granted subpoenas by the court to obtain financial records for the entities so that the court may grant judgment. David D. Lynn Esquire used these subpoenas with fraudulent and malicious intent to obtain financial records from outside entities and then attempted to link those outside entities not named in this case matter to Frank Tufano's personal income. It's important to note that Frank Tufano's former business, Frankie's Strange Meat LLC, ceased operation.
His business did not cease operation
In 2021, when they went out of business. This means
his website is literally still online. It's literally called Frankie's Free Range Meat.
Any financial records obtained past that point could not be linked to the Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC entity, as it is not actively conducting business.
Like, he's just lying.
Yeah, you guys know the whole fiasco with my business partner, and we got thrown out of New York, and that's what they're going after. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The organizations Shopify and PayPal did not obey with the entities named on the subpoena, as they sent documentation from other LLCs, which were not directly tied to the business entity in question, Frankie's Strange Meat LLC. The fact that this financial documentation was obtained for the years 2022, 2023, and 2024 means that it cannot possibly be linked to the Frankie's Strange Meat LLC entity. This mixing of entities and discretion was not recognized by either David D. Lynn Esquire or the court, continuing his committal of legal malpractice, and further, the district court's failure to follow proper judicial proceedings. E. Plaintiff's claim for monetary damages is fabricated. The plaintiff, a wealthy doctor, has funneled almost $100,000 to his lawyer in attempts to harm and destroy Frank Tufano's personal life and business, and has largely succeeded in doing so. Frank Tufano felt he was being copied and his ideas and research were stolen, and Frank Tufano's attempts to defend himself on social media resulted in a malicious and tortious response that was further elevated by intentional acts of legal malpractice and judicial misconduct. As a result of this lawsuit and...
Why is he saying this? Paul has every right to sue him.
Others, Frank Tufano lost his business in New York, was abandoned by his family, and ultimately compelled him to get a medical procedure which has resulted him in now being disabled and unable to...
Oh my god. Like, why is he saying this? It's just irrelevant. Oh my god.
Former business operations. In the time being, plaintiff has amassed hundreds of times of the amount of followers as Frank Tufano across all social media in the tens of millions. Plaintiff has tens of millions of followers on various pages such as Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and continues to maliciously harass Frank Tufano, who has never exceeded thousands of followers on any social media platforms. If there was any legitimacy to plaintiff's or David D. Lynn's claims...
By the way, he's saying this when he can look at his subscriber count. He has 101,000 subscribers.
Then Frank Tufano would have some reasonable comparable standing in his social media presence, business assets, or able funds to hire proper legal representation, but none of those are proven to be present. Conclusion. There are multiple acts of legal malpractice, court misconduct, and violation of rights that have occurred in this lawsuit that are grounds for dismissal. Frank Tufano requests that he be given a fair trial and that his side of the argument be heard, whether this means the case has to be backtracked to the initial default filing, or that the case be completely dismissed and the plaintiff may bring a new filing, and both the plaintiff and district court may adhere to the court's code of conduct and correct judicial process. Yeah, I mean, if any judge with half a brain read this, they would just throw everything out, because, I mean, if this was, if what's been done to me and what these judges and lawyers have done to me were exposed on any level whatsoever, all of them would be out of business. So, the plaintiff's lawyer, David Lynn Esquire, I filed multiple lawsuits against him and Shopify to no avail. I filed a motion to quash. These secret society degenerates, Freemason, Illuminati, whatever group they're a part of, they're just working against me. It doesn't have to really go beyond that. Like, this whole situation and everything, it's really overcomplicated to understand everything, but it's just a bunch of, the elite people in the club trying to shut me down. That's as simple as this gets. Whatever way they try to justify it, they're just trying to make it look legitimate, which is nothing close to legitimate. All I'm really asking is you guys share this as much as possible and try to support me as much as possible. Because although, as I said initially, I shouldn't be at risk here, they're doing some really fishy stuff. They're doing some really fishy stuff. Who's to say that, the people that work at these banks are secret society members? Anyone in any of these affiliations are secret society members, so they can they're screwing me over. They're not following the rules in the court. So why would they follow the rules after the judgments have been granted, Am I going to trust that a discrepancy, if I have a new LLC, am I going to trust that the secret society member at that bank is going to abide by the court order? And I filed a few more appeals and motion in this case. Like, I filed a motion to vacate the default again. I filed an appeal on the initial vacation of the default. And I also filed a motion to remove the entity from the case in addition to that, which explains things further. There's no reason for this judge. This is all crooked, so if he does grants him the corrupt and crooked and fraudulent default against me and says they can collect money. I explained in one appeal that there's no reason to, because Frankie's Strange Meat LLC went out of business, and more significantly, there's already an active judgment against Frankie's Strange Meat LLC because our last shipping bill for UPS wasn't paid because they damaged, I lost like $20,000 worth of packages, so I never paid the UPS bill. But UPS won a court case and got a default judgment against Frankie's Strange Meat LLC because
another default judgment. Every single court case he's in, he loses by default judgment. What the fuck is going on? Dude. Oh my. He has to be representing himself in these cases. There's no way he has a lawyer. He wouldn't keep losing by default judgment. Bro. What is he doing? Why did you fire your lawyer? Oh my god, this is so bad.
No one was there. We closed. We were out of business.
What an idiot.
So if they're unable to collect on this closed business, why should the judge grant a judgment against the LLC? And the reason I don't want that is because if this crooked lawyer who has done legal malpractice on multiple fronts has a subpoena for Frankie's Strange Meat LLC, he's going to do what he did in this case. He's going to try to get money from other entities, which is completely illegal. That's like if you win a court case against McDonald's and then use it to collect money from Burger King. That's what this lawyer is trying to do, and I would.
That makes no sense, and no, that's not what they're trying to do. Again, Frank's lying.
Put it past him because they already did it. He obtained financial documentation after years we were out of business, so it's all really crooked and corrupt.
Yeah, so he was able to get Frank's tax filings. So again, if Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC doesn't exist, please explain the tax filings showing you getting $5 million in gross revenue. So he's just a liar.
Stuff, and I don't trust any of this, which is why I'm just trying to get this case thrown out, and I need as much help as possible. So maybe it's meant to be, and they'll take all my stuff, and then I'll just wander around Beverly Hills handing out flyers and putting every plastic surgeon out of business. Yeah, I've always said the reason I'm doing this is because I genuinely believe I'm here to help people, and I try to improve the lives of.
Oh right, the only reason he's doing this is to help people while taking in $5 million in gross revenue.
As many other people as possible, and there's so many people that need help, and there's so many evil people in this world that. If I was smart, I would have just thrown in the towel years ago. And it's gotten to the point where I don't really have it in me to do this anymore. So if you guys can support me in any way possible, mainly exposing these people. It goes to show that the court system and laws and everything are a complete joke. It's all a complete joke. Amendment rights don't matter. Laws don't matter. Judicial proceedings don't matter. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. If you're not in the club, they're going to screw you over. Anytime you do something in life, that's the thing to keep in mind. Always keep that in mind. If you have, I've learned, and I should just stop going to court and stop wasting my time. There's no reason. There's no reason to get involved in the court system in any capacity whatsoever. The court, I was using social media to try to defend myself and defend my business and my well-being. And then these people use the court system to destroy you.
Frank really didn't need eye surgery. He looked just fine. I often forget how botched his surgery is cause it's become normal to me. Frank is the raped.
Yeah, Frank's just outrageously stupid and just makes dumb decision after dumb decision. Thanks for the donation, Rape.
That's all it's for. The court system, I should have said this at the beginning, the court system is simply a tool for secret society members, Freemason, Illuminati, all these secret society groups and organizations. If you haven't seen the movie The Good Shepherd, watch it. The court system is simply a tool for these people to destroy the lives of...
Is Caffey...
Dodo donate to
I find it disgusting you make fun of Frank. You're not the one being targeted. You have no idea what it's like being a target individual, having electromagnetic radiation altering the DNA of your brain. Frank exposed the vax hoax and they don't like it.
No, I think Frank is just suffering from early onset schizophrenia. Thanks for the donation though, Vegan Runner. Dodo donate to others. Him taking in 5 million gross revenue doesn't mean he's making a profit, VG. He also said in his video that he has 400K in credit card debt. I believe it. Often restaurants, for example, will operate in debt for years before going out of business. Well, I understand that. But knowing Frank, chances are he's just stupid. He probably could have made money, but he's just too dumb to make money. So, who knows? In any case, the worse off Frank is, the better. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Frank's eyes were so fucked up before he looked like a transvestite with mascara and tape that pulled them down on the sides. He looked strange. The sad part is, he looks better with his crooked and wobbly eyes.
I don't think so. I noticed, if you look at older videos on his channel, his face changed substantially. I don't know if that's due to just him being, like, getting older, or if it had something to do with, maybe some other cosmetic procedures he had, or, maybe, like, I know he suntanned a lot. It may have negatively impacted his skin and shit like that. Let me see. So yeah, look at his eyes here. This is from 6 years ago versus there. Like, his skin clearly got more wrinkly. He ended up getting, like, more bags under his eyes and stuff. I think it's from, like, sun exposure. Some of this may be, like, natural aging, but, like, even his hair. Like, his hair just looks worse, like, drier and less dense. So, some of this might also have been the carnivore diet too, right? Because, like, the carnivore diet is also shit for you. So he was eating, like, no antioxidants, really low vitamin E, getting a lot of sun exposure. Like, he was probably underweight a lot of the time too. And then his eyes, like, looked more saggy and fucked up. And then you can see when he was younger, he didn't have that. So I think if he just ate better and stopped getting so much sun, he would have just looked better. And he wouldn't have benefited from surgery. Thanks for the donation though, Frank's eyes.
Frank's eyes were so FKD up before he looked like a transvestite.
Okay, well, you donated that twice. Appreciate the donations, dude.
That must be Frank coping about his eyes looking better with the botched eye rape.
Frank Tufano, carnivore influencer, spent $30K on a largely unknown and not frequently done eye surgery to looks max and fix his prey eyes. It was complete botched, and 1 year later he looks like this, has gone partially blind and has double vision. Yeah, I mean... Like he's so stupid. Just... Why? He was he was saying his eyes look tired and droopy or something. Like, why don't you just eat better and not suntan? Like, he's just so stupid. Thanks for the donation, retard.
Bro, saying he looked better is like saying this pile of a sheep looks a little less rancid than that pile.
He looked a lot better without having the fucked up retard cross eyes. Thanks for the donation, Ugly Frank. Dodo donated $2. Why was this retard on MasterChef? Oh, yeah. They never aired any of the footage with him in it.
And the judges are even tougher, and we've got one of those chefs who are vying for the white apron. Local contestant Frank Tufano from Westchester is here, and so nice to have you here.
Well, so you are 26 years old. You're just a baby in this. I mean, you're competing to be the next Master Chef. I mean, how does it feel?
At least in regards to that I had, I guess, was, kind of part of the older and more.
Yeah.
The grill is going to get a really nice brown crust really quick. As well as kind of making it.
Wait, this is the first time they're
Different things from people, but it's only.
being a fan of us.
Yeah, he's wanted to be an actor in Hollywood and shit. He's one of the worst actors you've ever fucking seen. He was actually in some acting college for a while. It was hilarious. He was in he was an extra in some gay movie too. I don't know if I can find it just by Googling it. Let me see. Frank Tufano. He had some acting profile somewhere that linked to his acting videos. They're so terrible. But yeah, when that didn't work out, he tried to get on reality TV, and that didn't work out either. Are you embarrassed by this? Mike made a whole video about that. But no, I'm not embarrassed by that. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. For the donation anyway, Deadpool too.
Non-secret society members and regular people. And perhaps
Yeah, India and Pakistan are at war now.
is a legitimate use of the court system where the parties are either both secret society members or not secret society members. Whereas if they are secret society members, I guess the person with more connections wins. And if they're not secret society members, the person who spends more money wins. So just remember, guys, when you support me, you're not supporting me. You're just supporting the people that I want to help, and all these people that are worse off than us or worse off than me. That's the main thing I focus on is helping people. And if it's gotten to the point where these people have destroyed my life so much where I can't physically live myself, it's completely ridiculous. Like if I'm struggling and I have to worry about my well-being, that's what these people are doing. They're literally destroying my personal life and my well-being and everything I've done. They're destroying that so I can't help people. Everything I've done is selfless. I've given away so much money and tried to help so many people, and they don't want that. They want all the money for themselves so they can continue to have all the power and live lavish, luxurious lives and be comfortable while everyone else suffers.
Well, Frank is always the victim.
And the real victims are the animals that have died to enrich Frank.
Yeah. So fuck Frank. I hope he goes bankrupt, massively in debt, is never able to start another business again. And, you know, I could wish for worse things. Him just not being on the planet anymore would be great. Thanks for the donation, James.
When I went to the #1 celebrity eye surgeon, Dr. Taban, and allowed him to do the procedures he recommended to improve my appearance. I trusted his years and years of expertise, his reputation as the #1 eye plastic surgery doctor, and I believed him and let him do the specific surgeries that he recommended to perform on me. If you guys want the full story, you can watch the videos on my YouTube channel that are easily accessible via botchedbytaban.com. And I'm sure after seeing these pictures, you guys can understand why I say this guy should be in prison, let alone practicing medicine, because it is completely disgusting and despicable how he could do this to my face and not care or not try to help me at all, even gaslight and lie and manipulate me to attempt to say that I look fine and I look perfectly okay. And he's still hiring shills in these comments. You can go look on all the recent videos I posted to defend him and try to blame me and say I shouldn't have gotten this or I shouldn't have gotten that. These people are desperate. They're backed into a corner. They don't want the truth and reality of this scam of plastic surgery exposed. So if you guys want to support me, you can please just share the video and share my pages on TikTok and YouTube. And if, as I said, if you do want to read that full story or share your own story, you can go to botchedbytaban.com. Oh, I forgot to add.
Why did he use like one of the most retarded looking photos of himself?
Some of you guys are saying you look better now. Yeah, I've already had 10 corrective procedures and I'm still half blind and I still have to get a few more surgeries. So just to address that, for you guys that's saying I look a lot different, yeah, about $100,000 later and 5 times going under anesthesia since in the span of a year.
So he's saying that he could just blow $100,000 on plastic surgery, but he's broke and has no money. Like, he's clearly just a fucking liar, dude. Well, Frank is stupid, but we already knew that.